So do I just need to start over?
There we go.
Oh.
Now it's on. I think whenever they
Hi,
record.
Callie. Hi, Connor. Hi, Talon. How is everyone?
You're unmuted. Yeah, it should be.
Now, by now I have to go.
It's whenever.
Good
you go
morning.
On or when they start recording, and if you're
Mhm.
not on camera and unmuted at
Mhm.
that point, then it like locks it for a sec. And then
Okay.
once the recording like starts or we stop the recording, it's like turn back on.
So now I've got to go get what we're supposed to be watching though, because that got moved.
Zoom.
Well, in all fairness, the instructor I was 100% prepared until I came and sat down, and then
Exactly.
everything I thought I had prepared for
Yep.
went away. And I'm like, it was easier teaching Spanish class to 13-year-olds. I have to tell you.
Oh no, I'm Ryan.
Yeah. I didn't have the same tech issues there. Okay. We want the PowerPoint for the workshop for Ignite 18. Here we go. Now, we're going to see if Zoom will screen share.
Ryan
Rucker.
Rucker?
Couple. Yep. Nice to meet you.
Are you one of the new interns around here? Or have you been,
Yes.
are you seasoned?
Yes. Seasoned a couple weeks,
There you go.
almost a couple weeks.
Right? Like.
All right, look, guys, I got it to work.
Look at you.
All right, everybody online, can you see me? I'm gonna cast in here too. Slowly
Yes, I can see you.
going here.
And the screen.
How do I minimize though? That I don't know.
How do you guys usually cast these? Is it just through?
It's all set up in the building here.
Gotcha.
Cast. I
Thank
don't,
you.
what room are we in?
We are.
Fairway.
Fairway. Way
Let's
rare.
Yeah.
find Fairway available. Voila! Oh my God, I'm on a roll here. All right, Connor. Good morning, Connor. Can you hear me? Hi, Callie. How are you? Let's see if I get back on Zoom.
Good morning. I'm good.
Good, you can hear me. Yay.
Yes.
Okay, everybody get checked in. I've got the check-in thing up.
Hey, Megan, good morning. I can hear you.
Good morning, Connor. And hopefully Talon will come back in a minute. He'll figure out that we had to start over. Okay, we are doing Ignite 18. I think I forgot to show you that slide. Ignite 18, negotiate offers. All right. Note say, briefly introduce yourself. I think you all know I'm Megan. Hello. All right.
Hi.
Hi. Is everybody done checking in? Okay. Okay, let's take action. Before jumping into today's workshop, we're going to text 5 people the message on the following slide. So start doing some lead gen on our Thursday morning here. Let's see what our message is this week. Oh, come here. Let me get. Hi, Talon. How are you? Let me go back a minute, guys. Let's let Talon scan in.
If I didn't see them Tuesday. So I was like 2 minutes late.
Oh.
3 minutes late. But remember when that came in?
Mm-hmm.
Just- so,
Don't think so. We know
Okay.
you were here. We'll have to figure that out. I don't know. I mean, it's not like we keep attendance. It
Right.
just helps us
It's
know
more-
who's more or less participating
Exactly.
as routinely as they can. And one way, the good point for everybody, if you do miss a session in person, they are recorded and then they're uploaded to our Facebook launch page. So you can go back later and watch that video and like comment on something on the video so we know you saw it
Cool.
and tag me or tag Kristen, and then we know that you're participating in that way
Gotcha.
too. Just to try to keep track of everybody.
I was curious about that with me being my first launch class. even though there was one on Tuesday, I'm like, okay, should I go back then? And
You can go back and watch them, or since we're on Ignite 18, the course lasts for 20 sessions.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna start the new course again in July
Exactly.
or August, can't remember the date. But then if you've missed some and you want to see them in person, you have an opportunity to start doing them again. Or you
Okay.
can go back and watch them all in the videos. It's up to you how
Gotcha.
quickly you want to review things. You can watch them 100 times. I mean, you know,
Because Tuesdays, like difference between like Tuesday class and Thursdays is what, like where,
Tuesday class is presentation of the material.
gotcha.
Then Thursday's class is the workshop where we review the material and we do activities around the material.
Okay. I like it.
So it's kind of like the homework day.
I like it.
Yes. So today we're going to take action. And this is the quote or the question. Let's see what it says that we're going to text to our peoples. Text 5 people the following message. Are you curious about what your home could be worth in today's markets? Just send me a text or an email with your home address and I'll send you a neighborhood update. So people like these things, get ideas of what the homes in their neighborhood are valued at. We do this every Thursday. So if you just want to, you know, have a strategy on how you target the people in your phone, you can do more than 10 too. 5 is just kind of easy to pull up.
Definitely.
And then once you get it set up in a command and you get a Twilio account, you can have command send out these texts for you too.
Right.
Hard for me to do it. I was going to go into my command, but then I'm on the computer, so I can't do that. Okay. Excuse me. I have a 14-year-old niece and she has an orchestra concert tonight.
Ooh.
So I
What's she playing?
texted the upright bass. So I
Nice.
texted her to make sure her shirt's clean. She said yes. And I said, yay. And I get back ERM. What does ERM mean?
Wait, what did you say?
I said, yay, because her shirt's clean. So I get back ERM. She texts me in acronyms all the time. And I have no idea what they
Right,
mean.
and I'm like, and then I always go into like my little acronym, like dictionary, and I'm like, oh yeah.
It's like English, please.
HMU, okay.
So. All right. Everybody online doing good with our assignment? People done? No, we don't have a big presence. We typically, prior to Meta's change of being able to upload live streaming,
Yeah.
we used to put it on Facebook as well. So we had a lot more people watch it from the Facebook live stream because it's more convenient than having to log into Zoom.
Right.
So that's
That's mostly
this
like
diminished
YouTube
our,
or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
it's diminished our participation a little bit.
Yeah, then move it to Meta, probably change
Yeah.
the streaming.
Yvette found a wraparound to it, but there's several steps and Kristen tried it and we couldn't get it to coordinate with all of this other technology that's open at the same time.
Fun.
Mhm. So we'll see.
Mm.
Okay. So moving on, if everybody's done, we have a little homework assignment for this week. There's a video from Kevin Ward about how to negotiate with another agent. So we want you all to take down this link, save it on your phone, and you can watch that at your leisure. And these are mega agents that give us some insight into what their negotiation skills are like when they're dealing with other agents. So good information to hear other perspectives. Not just relying on what Ignite says and what we say, because you over time will develop your own style for these things. So it's good to expose yourself to other resources. Yeah.
Kevin.
And then reminder also, make sure you're doing your daily success plan. You all have your 10-10-10, ideally, where you're trying to put 10 new people into your database, into Command. You're trying to talk to 10 people a day via text or email or a phone call, maybe writing 10 letters a week, trying to reach out to people, say, hey, I'm in the real estate business now. Neighborhood, this prior slide where we're asking them for a neighborhood update, it's super easy to go into MLS and put in an address and say, what within a quarter mile of that address, what has sold in the last 6 months, and you get, 6 to 10 properties or whatever. You can click on the button on top of MLS and you can email all that information to a person from MLS. So they see those listings, they see the home prices, and it's a great way to communicate with people. And so if you can send out this kind of question to just everybody in your database, like 10 at a time, particularly if you can hone it in by their zip codes and stuff, then you can do the same grouping at the same time.
Good.
And just a good way to start connecting with people, because we are in desperate need of listings. I don't know if anybody's on the MLS lately, but yesterday there were only 4,800 active listings in the entire MLS area, which is 16 counties. So we are in desperate need of inventory. So if we can get anybody to sell a home, it's going to be a good thing for everyone, not just yourselves, because then you're helping your other agents trying to get their buyer's house.
Oh, right.
So keep up with your daily systems, your daily 10-4, whatever is working for you. If you're doing open houses every week, make sure you're hitting them on the weekends. If you're going to networking events, passing out your business cards, just keep that energy going. We need it. All right. Your weekly activity tracker. Don't forget to log into that every Monday morning or Sunday night, whenever you have a chance. Kind of put down how many people you did talk to, if you had any successes with it, got any responses back. I always send out personal things for holidays, like Mother's Day. I sent out a little blast to my sphere. I
That's
probably
great.
had 70 responses.
Yeah.
And I even send it out to all the guys. I word it where it's just hope everybody's having a lovely Mother's Day with your family and friends,
Right.
that kind of thing. So it's not geared to just people who are moms, it's geared to everybody. And I get a lot of responses back. So those kinds of just mass little blasts, once a month to your sphere can be really helpful.
Right.
That's why it's nice to get all the people on your phone into your Command as much as you can, especially if you have an email and a phone number. Command is much more efficient. It doesn't work as well if you only have one or the other, but that's just to get started on that. So put down your activity trackers. This is how you can track your daily 10-4 successes. How many people did you reach out to? Who responded back? What kind of contacts did you get? Were you able to make any conversations about real estate? Were you able to make an appointment? Did you get people interested in maybe needing to buy and sell? I mean, your objective here is to get appointments with people and to get them to sign contracts to hire you. That's your ultimate goal. So the more contacts you make, the more regularly, then that opportunity is going to come about more quickly. All right. Okay, let me see what it says for us to do. Beginner workshop. Let's hear about your progress. What kind of experiences have you all had with your daily activities? Have you had any positive experiences?
House.
Good. How'd it go?
It went really well. So actually, in my neighborhood, I just really offered they, I guess, weren't aware that I was a real estate agent yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just went over there and, they've seen me walking the dog, and it's I'd really like to do an open house. This will be one of my first, but really enjoy, to use your guys' property since I would live right there.
Yeah.
And it went really well. Most of my neighbors came by, which was
Good.
really nice for me to then
Yep.
let them all know
Absolutely.
that I'm an agent now, which is great.
Yeah. Ryan is here with me in the room, and he said he did an open house in his own neighborhood, and a lot of the neighbors came to visit him, which is a great way for him to spread the word that he now is a real estate agent. So hopefully they will start using him in the future. Great opportunity to do open houses in your own neighborhood where you already know people, definitely. Anybody else have an experience they'd like to share?
I reached out to some old friends within the last month and they're actually looking to buy a house in the Dallas area or possibly moving back to the Kansas City
Okay.
metro area. So
Good.
I told them I could help them if, they didn't have a realtor and find one for them if they're looking in the Dallas area or coming
Absolutely.
back to Kansas City area.
Well, good. Well, let's hope that pans out. Do you all know how to find the referrals for agents in other areas? Okay, in Command, there's a whole section on the left side are all those little icons where with all the options of things to do. There's one for referrals. And it takes you to another platform on Command and it has all the agents that are out there in the world,
Oh, wow.
US, Canada, Mexico, yeah. Because KW is global. We are an international company. Mostly United States and Canada, but we do have affiliations in other countries. But you can look up an area, you just type in, Dallas or a zip code or whatever, and it'll populate all the agents in that area. Then you can start honing in on people based on their, either what they specialize in or, it has all their credentials on there. So you can find other agents, reach out to them, meet them on the phone, see if
yeah.
it's a connection you'd like to make, if you get a good vibe or not. And then you could recommend somebody to them. Yeah. So it's a really good resource for all of us, and quite frankly, because you can't know agents in every city.
Right.
So I have a guy in Manhattan needs to sell his house. So I reached out to another agent in Manhattan with the name Megan. I'm like, oh, I bet she's nice. And I called her on the phone and sure enough, we hit it off on the phone. It's like, well, I'm going to send Casey to you. You seem like a delightful person. So part of it is just, it's back to the whole concept of real estate is about a relationship. If you can connect with somebody, then it's gonna be much easier to help you connect that client to somebody. So, all right. Good stories. All right. Oh, good question to ask here. What challenges have you encountered with your real estate and your daily 10-4s and trying to reach out to people? Anything been a struggle for you?
Me personally, just because I don't have the business cards yet. I've just
Yes.
been using I have a dot card, which is really cool. Those where you just are able to tap them once and your
Yep.
stuff transfers.
Yep.
But it's been difficult with people really want a physical card instead of me putting my contact info into their phone.
Yep.
And then, when you have a physical card, you get home and you empty your pockets, you see that at the end. If I'm putting my name and contact info in someone's phone,
Yep.
it's not like they're looking at their phone being like, oh, I forgot that I met Ryan today. So having a physical card would be best.
Yeah. Having business cards is helpful. Some people like to have information on their phone, depending on, the person and their style, but a lot of people prefer a business card. So do you know where to order those?
Don't.
Ah,
That's why I was gonna ask, but
Okay.
I was gonna wait until.
Yeah. Those are on the KW portal. So
Okay.
after class, I'll
Yeah.
show you how to do that.
That'd be
Yep.
awesome.
All right. So today's agenda, what is a negotiation? The 3 Ps in a negotiation, negotiation tips, recaps and ahas, and then of course, focusing on our daily success systems, making sure we're doing that. So let's start on what they're going to talk about for us today. It's going to recap what we did on Tuesday. Okay, practicing the key skills of negotiation. So trying a scenario here, prepare, present, and position, the 3 Ps. Working with a partner, read the scenario. List clarifying questions to ask your client. Apply your new knowledge of open and closed questions, which isn't always as easy depending on the client and the way they answer things. But it's a concept that's nice to try to focus on. Okay, let's see. So activity, read the scenario below. Circle or underline the key areas in which you need more information or certainty before you could not sure that conveniently, that word is mistyped, negotiate on your client's behalf. Write 3 specific questions you would ask your client in the space provided below. Anybody have pen and paper or? I didn't know we needed pen and paper. Sorry, guys.
We got some?
If you have to, yeah, we've got one Rucker. Everybody else online, sorry, you're on your own.
Million some.
Okay, so let's see. Connor always laughs at me. All right. So you are representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her present property. Like any first-time home buyer, she's looking for you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak. It is listed as is and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155,000. There has been quite a bit of activity on this listing. Okay, there are a bunch of things in there. So based on what you're comfortable with and what your brain's thinking, what are 3 things you would need to get more information on? Hone in on your 3 things, and we'll go around, everybody can share one. So I could make sure we hit on everything.
Go ahead.
Let me run and grab. Extra.
I guess I could just like pull up a piece of paper on the computer.
You could, yeah.
You're fine. I'll give her a few more minutes to come up with your thoughts. I wrote down some things that popped out on me. All right, Callie, Talon, you guys ready too?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, I'm gonna switch to the next slide. It says clarifying questions to ask the client. Let's see. Well, first off, okay, so what kind of questions did you come up with? Let's share. Rutger,
My
what was one of your
Biggest
questions?
question would be like, first, what are they pre-approved for?
Exactly.
You have a lender or you see
Yeah.
approved.
Very good thing. You need to talk to her lender. I see lots of other things that I would need to ask the lender too. Not only what is she pre-approved for, can she afford something as much as 175,000? Because you can't make assumptions, but typically young single people, have a budget, like all of us. What are her student loans totaled at? And what does that monthly payment look like for her? Is she obligated to 300 a month or 600 a month on those payments?
Yeah.
Huge difference. And then she wants to keep her payment as low as possible. So what is her expectation of her monthly mortgage payment? Is she want it to be her rent payment, which may only be $1,000 right now? Or can she go up? Because you need to know those things, because once she gets a new mortgage payment on top of her student loan payments, even though she qualifies to make all those payments every month, but from an income perspective, she may not want to be committed to $1,600 a month in expenses. That's a big chunk of her budget.
Yeah.
So you need to ask her what her comfort level is, because that's going to guide you on the amount of house she can afford to buy. And if you need to take those student loan figures out of her possible monthly available money,
Yeah.
then you need to be mindful of that at the beginning and make sure that you know what her true level is. She may only be able to afford a house that's at 140, and we don't know until you see all that information. So excellent point, Callie.
Home insurance and like.
Well, yeah, and then you have to
the
calculate in, yeah,
HOA and all
home
that.
insurance, if there's HOA fees, what her utilities are gonna look like. I mean, it's easy for people to all of a sudden, they need $2,000 a month to move into this house for all the other things that have to be included, and they can't afford that. They may qualify from a loan perspective to get a loan that high, but they don't want to make payments that high. So you need to have that conversation with your clients. Definitely. What else did you guys notice?
I wrote down questions kind of about the roof.
Yep.
I would ask them like, how old is the roof, and if the homeowner is aware of the leak, and if they've had anybody out there to look at it.
Yep, if they've made any repairs. And if that's the only, I'd want to know, since they're listing it as is, if there's only one roof, typically a home isn't listed as is unless there's other possible problems,
Right.
not something that you already know about. Or you do know about it, I mean, you know it's going to cost a lot of money to fix.
Yeah.
So I would want to know, is there also perhaps a foundation issue? Is there a problem with the sewer lines, the plumbing problems? You know, what else might be going on where you're listing the home as is? Because if all you have is a roof leak, well, you get a roofer out there, you fix the patches, you repair inside, you know, $1,000, you're done. So why didn't they do that yet?
It's like,
Yeah, is there mold up there? Does the whole roof need to be replaced? Yeah, I would definitely want to pursue the roof leak issue, and then I'd want to know what else, why it's selling as is.
and this is like us noticing. the
Right.
roof leak, not like a material fact that was listed on the listing
Right,
for us to see.
Right.
This is like-
because when it says house appears to have evidence of a roof leak,
This is us
um,
noticing.
we
it.
don't know if they said that on the seller's disclosure or
Right.
not. But when it says it's priced correctly, that is, in the real estate world, to me, that says that the homeowner recognizes this house has problems. So they're not listing it at 195 like the neighbor's house. They've lowered their expectation on the sale because it has issues. But we've also seen there has been quite a bit of activity on the listing. So what does that suggest? It's competitive. You might have multiple offers, even if it's the house that needs to be fixed up. If you can get it for that good price, then somebody else is willing to pay to have the roof fixed or whatever else might be the problem.
Yeah.
You may be looking at, so knowing that you might have multiple offers on a house that maybe still has problems, is she gonna have any bona fide, ability to get a house if she offers 155? No, she's gonna
So it's-
completely out of competition.
Yeah, so much activity on it.
Right. If she is the only person who's looked at the house and it's been sitting on the market for
Yeah,
60
right.
days, or she's the third person who's seen it, it's on the market for 60 days. Well, you could offer 20 grand less
Yeah.
because they're not getting any activity. But if they're getting a lot of activity, then I would call that agent and I would want to know what else is going on. Have you had multiple offers? What kind of phone calls are you getting from other people? Are you going to fix that roof? Or are you going to sell it without, with the roof leak?
Right.
Those kinds of things. So you kind of know what's going on, and then you can guide your client through her options based on that information.
It'd be wise.
Especially if they already have multiple offers in hand, you want to see if that agent will tell you as much information as possible. Like, are you looking at over asking? Are you close to 200 yet? Well, that's good to know. Because that prices some people completely out of the competition, depending on their budget. Yeah. Had you have an estimate on that roof leak? Oh, it's only an $800 repair. That's good to know versus 3,000. That can make a difference on your client's desire to go ahead and pursue that offer or not, depending on how much work needs to be done to the house.
Should we ask like when they need to be out of their renting?
Yes, good
Because-
job, Brian. That was my first thing. When's her lease date up?
When's the lease date? Because you don't want to have to sign up another lease, but then also it puts the pressure of, okay, well, I gotta get this done. Within
Right.
a month, 2
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, I mean, if they need to be out by July 31st, you're looking at, 10 weeks.
Do they offer a month-to-month things where if we have? to push
Right,
this
exactly.
further-
Can you coordinate with that landlord saying this one exception, will you please let her stay an extra 30 days so we can get her into this house? Some landlords are nice and will do it, some won't. But you need to know that because she has to arrange alternative living situation if she can't move in, if you don't find a house by July 31st. Are you moving in with grandma for a couple of weeks? I mean, what's your plan? I
Meet
mean,
with your agent for a sec?
right,
Like-
I mean, but you need to think of that. Do we need to find an Airbnb for a month? I mean, you have to think of options to present to that client.
That way you're
So
not
this
so
deal can go
hard.
through.
Yeah, to where like all that pressure.
Now Rucker has a question.
Well, I was gonna say, if she can only essentially afford 155, let's say, right, and it's
Mhm.
at 175, can you potentially constantly fight and like, hey, you wanna see if you can do a rent to own option?
Absolutely,
And then, I mean, that way her payments are going towards the
very much so.
principal for the next couple of years, or however
Yep.
it works out.
That is
and then
always
buy
an option. And talk to the lender about that. If we switch
Right.
strategies from buying something today
it.
versus rent to own for a year, what does that look like for her financially
Right.
moving forward? And what kind of loan do we need?
Right.
Yeah, and you could definitely strategize that as an option for a client. Or just say, hey, if your budget is, you're comfortable at 155, then let's start
Mhm.
looking at houses around 140
Right.
and see, so you can see what they're like and decide what you want to do, or if you want to have a different strategy for getting into a higher priced home.
Right.
Maybe like a lease back, I mean, a rent to own or contract for deed or something.
Right.
Absolutely.
BTI will play a big role.
Those are good things to think about. Yep. So let me see if we hit on everything that we were talking about. Yep. Those were all my things. You guys hit on every little note I had too. Good job. There's a lot to think. I mean, I had 10 things to consider.
Right? Just in this one.
Just in
paragraph.
that, then those 4
Yeah.
sentences, I found 10 things I need to talk to my client about, or to the lender about, or to the other agent about. Because
Right,
all of us are a team when you're working on these transactions. You've got to communicate with all those different people. And this one didn't have it in there, but if there's ever any question about ownership, then you also have to be in touch with the title company.
Mhm.
You need to know way early in the process what kind of lien issues are sitting on that house, if there are some.
Yeah.
Because they have to be dealt with in 30 days. And if you have an IRS tax lien, you can buy and sell a home. You, as the agent, just have to counsel your client. It's going to take a lot longer than 30 days.
Gotcha.
And there are ways to manage all of that, but you just have to know ahead of time if
Right,
there's
before you get the-
any issues with the title on that house. Yeah. That's not a scenario here, but it can come up. So that's something that as agents, we have to deal with title companies all the time too.
And would that be a question for the agent that listed it? Like, would that be?
It could be, or you typically, I always go when my client's interested in the home, especially if they want to put an offer on it. I go look at the realist tax records and just see if there's anything on there. Call the agent, say, hey, are you aware of any issues with the title? They say yes or no. Sometimes homeowners don't know there's an issue.
Right?
Most of them do. I mean, if you got a tax lien from
Right.
the government, typically you should know about it,
Yeah.
but some people don't. And so if there's any concerns, you can always ask the title company, even before you write an offer. That's why we partner with Platinum. Just go over to Amy and say, hey, I'm concerned this house might have some issues. You run a title check for me real quick. And they'll do that. Because then you know ahead of time and you can negotiate that as you're going along.
What's the cost?
Typically nothing.
Okay.
I mean, just running a quick title search, they just run it. And if you know how to do it yourself, like I was a paralegal for years, and so on behalf of my client, I did these things. You can go to the courthouse website yourself and see if there's any judgment sitting on people's names. And chances are, if there's a judgment against them, it might be attached to their house.
Right?
You can go to the county records, look up that address for the deeds on file and see if there's a lien on file against that property. It's not hard to look up the public records
Right.
It's public.
because it's public. You just need to know where to go.
Mhm.
But that information is out there if you want it. So we did this. We're kind of doing our scenario as a group, not one-on-one. Okay. Okay, so activity. Choose a partner and select who you play the part of buyer agent with and who plays the part of a listing agent. This gets a little harder. Let's see. Okay, let's just kind of do this. We'll read through what their perspective is on this. The property has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and is listed at $350,000 in a well-established neighborhood. The house requires new carpeting throughout the first floor and a new garage door opener. 3 offers have been made, but all were below the asking price. Why do you think that is? My guess is people are saying, I'll give you 345 because I want to save $5,000 to put the new carpet in.
Or to get the new garage door open.
Right, yeah.
So, those costs.
Well, new garage door system is expensive,
Yeah,
even the whole thing, but
Oh,
the-
it's not like a clicker, it's like the action, it's like.
yeah, if you just need the motor and the clicker, maybe just a few $100s. But that's possibly one reason why all the offers are below asking, but we don't know. It just says well-established neighborhood. It doesn't say if there's anything else wrong with the house other than the carpet and the garage door opener.
Mhm.
So there's kind of limit, because it's so much
Yeah.
better when you have the seller's disclosure in front of you and you can see if there's any other issues.
Right.
But, okay, so your buyer, we're gonna read the buyer's agent role here. Your buyers are making an offer of 345,000 on the house. They have been pre-approved. The buyers would like to close in the shortest time possible since they're moving from out of state and need a home for their family. Since they are leaving their appliances in their current home, the buyers would also like all of the appliances to be included.
Okay.
Okay. So, listing agents situation. Your sellers have raised their family in this house and are selling and have many friends and family in the area. Since their children are now grown, they no longer need the amount of space their current home provides, and they purchased a home in Florida. They would like to give all the appliances to their daughter, who has just gone through a divorce. They will not be moving until they have sold their current house. And although they would like to get to Florida as soon as possible, they are ready to stand their ground regarding the price. So, what are some obvious conflicts between the buyer's needs and the seller's needs?
Appliances.
Moving and appliances.
The
Yeah.
moving, the appliances, and the sale price.
Sale price, yeah.
These guys want 350 for their house,
Yeah.
and they're in no rush to get to Florida. They're older, they're sitting on mortgage-free home.
Right.
They can afford the rent in Florida if they're not there for the month. I mean, yeah, there's no incentive for them to move quickly. And they have a daughter going through divorce, so their focus is going to be much more on her than it is a new home buyer coming in. Especially since they've been in this neighborhood forever, they're nostalgic, they don't want to leave necessarily. I mean, there's lots of clues there as the seller agent, how you're going to need to protect those sellers' interests. Because if you try to steer them away from some of those interests too quickly, they're going to get very upset. You know, this is a process for them to detach from that home that they've lived in for 30 years. Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you have offers coming in where one is a quick sale, needs the appliances, and the other ones are, oh gosh, we could wait till August to move. Well, I'm quite sure the sellers are going to pick the offer where the appliances can be given to the daughter and that they can stay as long as they need. I mean, this is going to be a harder one to negotiate because your sellers have needs that are emotionally connected to the house.
Yep.
They're not financial needs. Sometimes financial needs are easier to say, okay, we got this financial need. Ooh, this matches that financial need. Let's go. But this emotional attachment is
List that. It's hard to-
very hard for people. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. So you're going to negotiate that very differently.
Mhm.
And you'd have to share that with the buyer agent. Say, hey, I hear you. Your buyers are being extremely reasonable. No question. Asking, but my client's kid just went through a divorce. She's given the appliances to the daughter. I'm sorry. If they can't afford the 350, then, I don't think my client's going to give you any concessions on appliance fee, expenses either. I mean, sometimes you can negotiate concessions and things, but if you want appliance concessions, because they need cash to buy the appliances, well, they probably need to offer 355 for the house.
Mhm.
So, and then have the seller give them back that cash at closing so they can use that cash to buy the appliances. You need to get
Okay.
clever with how you handle those negotiations.
Right.
Because if they're able to borrow more, then that's a good way to get cash at the end of the transaction. Is have the seller just give the cash back
Yeah.
in the way of a closing cost. Or even appliance concession. I mean, you can do that if it's written into the contract properly. So those are things to think about. Guys online, you have anything to add? Nope.
I mean, I just feel like there's not enough information here as far as like how long the house was
On
on the market
yeah.
for, because I mean, as a buyer, you can kind of hint at it in a roundabout way, is someone gonna go for this house? Like, if they're in no rush and they're gonna, they're holding their ground at 350, sure, you can offer 355, exactly what you're saying, or, whatever that might be, but it's just like, the longer the house sits on the market, the less, appeal that it has for the eye of anyone else, and now everyone else is like, well, why is it sitting there? There must be something wrong.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, now they're down to 340, and they're like, and maybe someone else like, oh, 235 or 335 for the appliances, and it's like, all of a sudden the divorce is done,
Mhm.
they're still not in Florida, and
Rucker has a very good point. If your seller has all these emotional needs, which is very challenging, and they're passing by a reasonable offer, they may be sitting in that house a lot longer because the longer it sits on market, people think something's wrong with the house. Very, very good point, especially if you get an offer within the first, 15 to 30 days. That's a very reasonable time. And you pass it by because you're dead set on getting 350 when all of your offers were sitting at 340.
And we wouldn't present the offer to the listing agent or like to the, we wouldn't present it saying like, my buyer has a very short time right now.
No.
Like, because in that way.
Well, you do know your offer.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because your offer has to say when you want to take possession, and it's gonna say it's,
possession, yeah.
it's 3
No,
weeks from
no,
now.
No, I thought you were literally saying like.
No.
Exactly, like, I don't know if I would present being like, well, my buyer only has, a very, very short time to get this, like, they want this house now. As opposed to if somebody else presented an offer later and that those people have forever.
Right.
To wait.
Well, as the listing agent, once you get the offers in and you're comparing those different details, if the offer that wants a short close has other components that are appealing to your sellers, then you would be calling that agent and saying, hey, you guys have a short close. Can you extend it 2 more weeks? And then we got a deal. You're going to try to negotiate those different terms against each of the offers to get the best one for your client.
Gotcha.
Right.
We
So,
So you don't say it up front as a buyer agent.
yeah.
But you may be negotiating that a couple of days later when they're calling you to find out if you have any wiggle room on your offer
Gotcha.
conditions. Yes,
But you also got to think, even though they're not in a rush to leave,
Yeah.
if let's say you were pushing 30 days and I was pushing 90 days, right, 9-day close, and they're like, oh, well, we can do that. This guy's got a 90-day close, lines up with everything. Well, guess what? It's on the 85th day. I back out. I have I got $2,000 down. I lose $2,000. Don't take the
Yeah.
house. Now they're out.
well, and that is a huge
So it's
risk
like-
taking a long close. People
Yeah,
can lose
90
their
days is
job,
long.
they can have a car accident, all of a sudden they're not able to buy a home.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's a very good point.
Ours, divorce.
Yeah. Yeah, things happen. I mean, it makes, the standard, 20 to 45 days for closing period is nice. You can get all the lending done in that period of time, you get all the inspections done, and you can move forward with that transaction. Anything longer than 45 days gets a lot more risky
Yeah.
because just life happens.
Yeah.
And then that can interfere with the transaction. So yeah, that's a good way. You should counsel your sellers and your buyers both on that. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
reason why, that 30 days is the standard or the ideal close.
right.
Because everything can get done in 30 days and we can move forward the transaction and we avoid a lot of other possible problems. Yeah, it's a very good point. No, you guys you're really good about thinking outside the box. And I mean, how many things have we been discussing? That was probably, 15 or 20 different
Right.
things.
On-
So every transaction is gonna have this level of focus on all these different issues. There's not just, literally, when you go through that offer contract and you're dealing with, the financing and the dates and who's moving when and the inspection period times and appraisal issues and all those things that you put into an offer, are all the things that are dealt with in the transaction.
Yeah.
Very rarely is everything that was in the offer what happens at the end.
Gotcha.
It ebbs and flows and changes and you do amendments and you get things, agreed to because that's how the negotiation process works.
This is like the starting point.
And you can verbally negotiate all these things, then you send it in an email to confirm, these are the things we talked about today. And then the other agent says, yes, we agree. Then you put all that in the amendment and everybody signs it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you have to, yeah,
With the back.
yeah.
What's
So.
the average that you've experienced? as far as negotiations go? Back and
It depends.
forth? On things that you have won.
Yeah, it depends on if you have multiple offers, there's a lot more activity as the selling agent because you have to look at each offer, present them all to your client. I always make a spreadsheet so we can compare apples to apples.
Right.
And then you sit down and, you know, sometimes it's easy to eliminate the lowball ones. Well, I'm not taking under listing, so that one's just off the table.
Right.
Then you look at the ones that are more competitive. And the one I've had 12 offers on a house once. And we had a couple, several came in as cash, but they were under asking, so we weren't interested. One came in 22,000 over asking, so my client was very interested.
Mhm.
Then another person came in with an escalation clause, 3,000 higher than the cash offer. But it was a loan, so there's a higher risk of accepting that offer if it didn't appraise, or the lender said no, because you know, your client can want to do an escalation clause, doesn't mean the lender is going to agree. So we ended up taking the cash offer. But, you know, I had to call those different people. I called the one with the conventional loan and the escalation and said, how solid your client? Well, she's a single mom, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Call back on the other agent. Your guy has cash. Well, send me the proof. Well, he had, you know, $180,000 in the bank. Well, he certainly can pay the 142. And so, you know, but I had to make all those phone calls.
Gotcha.
And then you also have to call everybody else back who submitted an offer and just say, hey, you're not really in contention because your offer's at 110. You know, you want to change it? Nope, I'm sticking to 110. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
But, you know, I reach out to every single person who submits an offer just to double check. No.
Right.
And maybe not up front ahead of time, because once we got the 142, but that was like our 8th offer. It was not the first one. It took a while. I mean, I got several within 24 hours. Then, you know, you go back to the people that sent them out first and just send a quick email and say, hey, we got a pretty solid offer. I'll keep you posted.
And then you
Meaning
go-
you're probably not in
Yeah,
contention
yeah.
anymore.
That when do you start making your spreadsheet? Whenever.
Oh, the
after
first
that
time, first offer comes in.
I like that
Yes,
idea.
yes, because there's so much to keep track of. So that's the scenario for multiple offers. House in Overland Park and Knoll Hills, friends of mine, they've lived there for 28 years, just like our first scenario, this scenario here. I got one offer on, I had an open house the weekend. We got one offer on that Sunday for 10,000 over asking. Regular inspections, just standard run-of-the-mill transaction. And everything went perfectly fine.
That's awesome.
I mean, we didn't have to do much. The biggest problem was, it was a couple moving in who were having, their children were having kids, you know, grandbabies. So they wanted to move back to the Kansas City area from Wichita. And my clients were moving into a retirement community. They were in their 80s. So I was working with people my age in their 50s,
Yeah.
which was nice. We had a lot of commonality on expectations.
Definitely.
They were very understanding about dealing with older grandparent people and their needs and timelines and that kind of thing. So I just lucked out and really had the perfect buyer.
Right? Your weekend.
But my clients, there's always a hiccup. My client was an 87-year-old man and his wife was like 81. So they had some limitations on moving, and I know the family. Their daughter came over and helped and all the grandkids were there and they moved them out. But Joe left some stuff in the house, which you're not supposed to do. Some people leave like the paint and whatnot, which, you know, buyers can appreciate because they might need the paint later. But Joe left a few odds and ends for the yard because they're moving to retirement home. They don't have a yard to maintain anymore.
Mhm.
And unbeknownst to me, he left all these things. So we walk in there on our final walkthrough with the other agent and I meet over there. And we go through the house and there's some paint and whatnots in the basement. And she's like, oh, that's okay. My clients aren't going to mind. It's like, well, thank you.
Yeah.
We get to the garage and there's these huge buckets of cement that he used in the back of his pickup truck for the snow. Well, he left them there. And then there's a bunch of yard tools. My clients, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm so sorry. And the agent, I could tell she was a little annoyed because there's stuff in the garage. And I said, do you think your clients would want it? She goes, well, paint maybe, let me find out.
Yeah.
You could just tell by her tone.
Mhm.
And it's like, the buckets I get, no, of course, not, you
Buckets
know.
of cement.
And they turned out that they didn't mind that the tools are there, they would keep them. But she's like, well, what are we doing about these buckets of cement? And I said, well, I'll call my son. So I called Antonio, I said, bring truck over. He and I loaded the buckets of cement in the car. And we drove them home. And what the hell are you doing? You know,
Right.
you can't
Yeah.
leave stuff in the house. You have to have it. And I wasn't gonna call my 87-year-old client and make him come deal with it.
Grab these big old buckets of cement.
Because he clearly couldn't deal with it to begin with, or he would not have left them.
Right.
So those sorts of things happen all the time. So you have to be very willing to figure out a way to solve that problem and make sure this transaction gets done.
Gotcha,
That's the last thing.
right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I
you
guess
haul them off
it's
yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So those sorts of things happen a lot, and you have to be very reasonable and very, polite. I mean, I was very apologetic to the other agents, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't not realize that they had issues with moving some of the stuff. Nobody told me, I'm so, because they didn't call me and say, we
Yeah.
left things in the house, Megan. Oh, okay. So that's also a lesson for all of us in hindsight. When your clients move out on the 30th, let's say, and your walkthrough's on the 31st, go over there the night of the 30th and check, because I did not do that.
Yeah.
Then I would have known ahead of time that those things were there. That was my fault for just not following up, because my friend was taking care of her parents in the move. So I just kind of thought, oh, well, Shelley can handle it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she can. But Shelley went on with the big truck and left Joe and Mom at the house to get the rest of the little stuff. And so she had no idea they'd left the little stuff behind either. So part of it is just communication,
Definitely.
communication.
Like, would
So-
you recommend having, or would you have like trash bags and like things to go, or like whenever you go to the final walkthrough, just in case there's like little things left around that you can just throw away for them?
Absolutely. I'll show you guys the back of my car one
No, I was
day.
gonna say, 'cause we have-
I have real estate equipment in my car.
Okay,
I have gloves, I have a flashlight, I have a hammer,
yeah, like
I have trash bags,
I like it.
I have wet wipes, I have paper towels, because well, I mean, you never know
Yeah.
what you're gonna encounter and what you need.
Right?
Absolutely.
I like those little booties that. you
I have little
draw.
booties.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I've encountered enough stuff over the day that you
Right.
just know. Like you go to a house where the yard's dry and you can't get your sign in because your foot's not strong enough. So now I have a hammer in my car so I can bang the sign in. I mean, just things you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just learn. So I just keep that gear in my car
I like it.
because you never know when you're gonna get that phone call that something happened and you're not at home to go get your gear. You're over in Independence.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice to keep it in the trunk.
Wise.
And Kristen always counsels all of us to keep water and snacks in the car too, if you get stuck.
Gotcha.
Stuck on, if you're on your sixth house you've looked at and it's been 3 hours and you hadn't had any, liquid to hydrate yourself with. But I always take my thermos with me wherever I go,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you learn those things because you can, I mean, a showing's supposed to take 15 minutes. We can be there for an hour. You don't know, things happen. So, all right. Okay, good conversations today, guys. You're really thinking about this whole negotiation thing. And there isn't a set rule. Every scenario is different and you
Right.
just have to not overlook something. You've got to make sure you're like all these 10, 15 things we've been focusing on, you need to focus on in every single transaction, whether you're the buyer or the seller, because all of it impacts both sides. It just depends on you come at it from a different angle perhaps,
Mhm.
but your end goal is the same for each person to figure out how to get this home sold.
I like having the outline, but it's
Yeah.
not gonna be cut and dry every time.
No,
there's not-
some are much
it's-
smoother than others. I mean, if you know you're buying a house as is and your client's okay with that, then hopefully when they see the inspection and it has all the 30 little things you were expecting it to have,
Yeah.
they don't panic.
Mhm.
Because that's a big problem too. People see those inspections and sometimes they're just like, whoa. It's like they're all little things.
Yeah.
The inspector will put red, green, or yellow on them, or 1 through 4, the priority on the concern level. And then if they're all 1s and they're all green, it's just something that in the future you need to, take care of.
Right.
But it is not impacting the safety of the home or, any of those sorts of things. You still can move in and it's gonna be fine. So helping them
Yeah.
kind of understand what those things in the inspection mean. Now, if it has a red mark on it or a number 4, something like that, then it needs to be negotiated. That's something that you need to figure out for your client.
Have you seen the inspection before?
I mean, just even on, my wife and I's house, whenever we got it, but that was 3 years ago, and I was just like, what is all this stuff?
Yeah, I was gonna say first time home buyers.
Right? We look at it
I
and then
saw,
you see under
I
red,
got in on one and they were just like,
look at all the stuff. we
and like
got
to me,
there.
I'm like, this is my first interaction with
Right.
it and I'm listening and I'm like, if I'm having an open mind and I was like, it just sounds so bad.
And it's
then,
like how-
and then at the end, he's like, this is a solid house. I
Yes.
was like, he's like-
Wait, so what else are you
but
using?
it's because they have to, so
Well,
like,
they do, yeah.
if you can't like. relay that to your client.
Right,
like,
then
they're
you're
not
you're
gonna,
in-
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of the
because you're cutting
things-
costs.
Yeah.
A lot of things the inspections are looking for are not structural issues, they're more cosmetic.
Okay.
And your client needs to recognize that. Like, they'll say, oh, it doesn't have the tap on the, on the sewer inlet line. Well, it doesn't, it's nice to have one, but it's not a safety issue if the cap's not on there. And they don't know, oh my God, it's a sewer inlet line. It's okay.
It's because everyone's selling food, you know?
Right, and things like that, so it helps, and every inspectors has a different style, but like they said, they rate them from not an issue to, yes, it's an issue. And so you have to focus on the ones that are the issue and then decide if it's something your buyer wants to deal with, or if you need to get the sellers involved. And that's where when you're buying something as is, you can mark box number 1 where you can do the inspections and the seller still won't make any repairs. You've agreed to that ahead of time. But you can get out of the contract if something significant is wrong with that house and you don't like it.
But just because the seller marks it doesn't mean that you can't negotiate back in.
Very true. Good point, Roger. Just because it says seller will make no repairs. If you discover that
Because yeah.
that roof leak is not a roof leak, that the beams in the attic have actually cracked because the water damage was so significant and you didn't know until the inspector got in there. Well, now we have a structural problem.
Right.
Does the seller want to address that with us and maybe agree to split the cost to fix it? Or do we want us to back out of the deal because we don't want to buy it that way? And then now you seller now have to disclose to the next buyer that the roof has a structural issue that you haven't fixed yet. So, if you find something big, then typically the seller will negotiate with you because they're gonna have to fix it now. Particularly if they were unaware of it. Sometimes you find things the seller did not know was wrong. That does happen. And so then you often will renegotiate and just sign amendments to take away
Mhm.
that seller will not help pay part.
Gotcha.
Everything's negotiable. Doesn't mean they're gonna agree to it, but everything's negotiable. You can try.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if it's not satisfactory to your buyer, then you just say, okay, well, then for that reason, we're gonna cancel the contract, and you send over the cancellation, and you put your reason in. It's
Yeah.
and then occasionally you will get feedback or pushback, I should say, from the seller where they don't want to cancel. It's like, well, then let's renegotiate.
Mhm.
If you want to sell this house, we have to figure out how we're handling that problem.
Now, do you recommend writing that and saying, this is the reason I'm out? Does that
If
make
you
it
need to do
finalized,
if you need to
or-
do a cancellation, I always recommend you call Lynn, our broker, and say, hey, this is the situation I'm in. My clients possibly want to cancel. What do you want me to say in the cancellation? Because there's certain language they like things to have,
Okay.
and that's her decision.
And you'd recommend that over just like a quick phone call to the other agent, being like, hey, this is.
Oh, no, I would negotiate it all first, but if you're not getting the cooperation you want, or you're not sure if the other agent's suggestion is a good one, then come to us coaches first. And if we're,
Sure.
and then if we are like, that's a Lynn question, then we'll all go talk to Lynn about it.
Sure.
Because sometimes, once you get into the he said, she said kind of thing, we need to make sure that we're covering our bases.
Can't just,
Or, if the seller's being uncooperative, they said they weren't gonna do the repairs and now we're trying to back out and they're saying no,
Mhm.
then what are we gonna do?
Mhm.
And she can help kind of guide us through that. Because most agents are reasonable, but not all.
Mhm.
And most clients are reasonable,
No.
but not all. And sometimes you'll have an agent, he'll say, I'm really trying, but my guy is just not budging. It's like, okay, I get it. I mean, they can't control that,
No.
but so you have to decide what you're gonna do on your end. Yeah. And you just want to make sure that it's done properly. So, you're covered if something comes back a few weeks later. You want to make sure the proper paperwork's on file.
Mhm. Right. Definitely.
Yeah. So, because verbal agreements people can try to enforce them, but we want everything in writing
yes.
and we want it all signed. Just because you write it down, nobody signs it, it doesn't happen either.
Exactly. You don't initial
So
it.
that's the only way to protect yourself is to get everybody to sign off on this is the new agreement or this is the cancellation or whatever the situation is. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Let's see. So we talked about the 10-4 earlier, 10 conversations a day, 10 contacts added to command, try to do handwritten notes or send out emails, ways to interact with people, social media engagement, trying to like 10 things on social media, write 5 comments, not just likes, but actually respond back to somebody's post. Maybe do a direct message to somebody about an act, like if it's their birthday, I always, post happy birthday.
Oh, yeah.
But it's nice to sometimes send a direct message or then send them a personal text. It's not just through Facebook. Then they know that you're really thinking about them.
Right.
Just ways to engage with people on social media about activities that are already going on with them. So you're not trying to think of something to talk to them about.
Right.
Their kid graduates. Well, my God, this time of year, everybody whose kids having to graduate usually need to say something on there, comment on it.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Start engaging with these people. That just helps. And then, occasionally post something about real estate on your page. So when people engage back with you, they see the real estate stuff too, and they start connecting you as a real estate agent. It's a blend of all of that. Being personal and trying to develop relationships, but also exposing yourself. Because you have a business now you're running.
Yeah.
You need to let people know you're running a business
Right.
and how you can help them. What value do you bring? Yeah. So kind of think about those things. What else could you talk about on your social media platforms? That's real estate related, but not just, flashing a bunch of, predetermined posts in front of them.
Right.
Just to do some videos or talk about,
Making it personal to you.
make it personal to you and,
And your audience.
what's helpful for them. Here's, 5 tips for getting ready for the summer outside.
Yeah.
Just helpful things like that.
Mhm.
That people can actually use. Oh, well, that's right. I forgot. I need to clean my gutters out. Just little things
Yeah.
that connect to homes and real estate and, managing your property. I always like to remind people in the spring's a great time to regrade the sides of your house.
Yeah.
Make sure you got your 6 inches up and your slopes going down. That keeps the water out of your house. Just, little tidbits like that
Yeah.
people aren't aware
Or
of.
like pests and something.
Yeah. Yep.
Enjoy your outside again. Here's a couple tips for enjoying the outside.
Yes, and on the Facebook launch page, under the files is a calendar called the 2024 social media calendar, I think is the title. It has a suggestion of a different type of post or engagement or interaction for every single day of the year. Now, obviously, none of us have time to do all that,
Right.
but it gives you ideas of things you can try to post 2 or 3 times a
Yeah.
week. It has it highlights like all the national holidays and, weird little things like that. So you can talk about them if you want to. Like, I didn't realize this coming Sunday's National Wine Day.
Ah.
Well,
My God.
that's my favorite
Gotta
thing. So
stock
I'm
up.
posting about National Wine Day.
Get some bottles right now.
Exactly. So it's just fun little things like that. And some of they'll have suggestions like funny little questions to post. You can get interactions back with your clients. It's very helpful. So that gives you ideas of things to do on social media to try to get that engagement going.
And that's on the launch page.
That's on the launch page,
Cool.
under the files on the Facebook page. There's a lot of information that we've uploaded on those files. And you just search in like, the title,
Yeah.
2024 or calendar or something, so it populates it, and then it should, because some of them are down in the feed, and
Okay.
then you can find them. But those are things that just keep trying to do it. How is everybody doing on getting contacts into your database? Like, I have like 750 contacts in mine.
When you did that.
So, every day you need to sit down and and then I meet new people, I put them in command. It's the first thing I do. Even if they're never gonna be my client, I don't care. That's the point of command is to allow you to try to reach out to as many people as possible. And over time, you'll hone in on, like, sometimes people will say, I don't want to unsubscribe me. I don't want to get your emails. Well, be respectful and
Yeah.
unsubscribe them. That's okay.
Mhm.
Not everybody wants to be bombarded with that
Yeah.
stuff. But if they like to get it, then I'm going to keep communicating with them all the time. So it's a great resource to you. If you get everybody in command, you can use the smart plans. I would highly recommend you get a Twilio account. It's a secondary business number, cell number that's connected to your command, and it will send text messages to everybody in command, whatever you want it to say, through a smart plan.
That's awesome.
I communicate with my people about once a month, every other month,
Yeah.
with a smart plan in that Twilio account, and I get great
Like
feedback.
you're saying that Mother's Day.
Mother's Day, I
That's
got about
awesome.
70
That's especially that
responses.
you got.
Because people love they love to be appreciated.
Yeah, and most of the time, you're probably gonna be around family if they're around,
Yeah, so I always do it for all the holidays, and I'll do it for other things. Like, I'm doing Kristen's smart plan for the seminar we're doing on June 4th for home selling.
Okay.
I'm sending that out to all the people in my command.
I like it.
A command does work best, just to remember, you can put it in there with just an address, just a phone number, or just an email. Get them in there, get them started. But ideally, you want to have a cell phone number, an email address, and a physical address. Once you have those 3 things in command, it will do a lot of stuff for you automatically. Like, if you have a neighborhood where the person lives or where they work, it will automatically send them a neighborhood nurture once a month about activity in their neighborhood. Even if they're in a business zone, it'll still find real estate activity in that area and send them something. because it's based on a zip code. So it's a really great way to communicate with people in your database, and you don't do anything, it's just automatic. So it's nice, and so if you don't have everybody's information, it's a good excuse on your 10 contacts,
Bingo.
10 conversations a day, call people and say, hey, Joe, I haven't talked to you for years, how you been? I just got my real estate license, I'd love to put you in my database, send you information about homes in your neighborhood, do you mind? Oh God, no, Ryan, that'd be great. Then get his information. And then networking is one of the best ways to get business. It's just if everyone in your sphere knows you now sell real estate, then they might start talking about you too. And that's your objective. You're not going to actively only be cold calling and looking for people. You want to rely on your resources, the people you already know, to send you business. So you want to be reaching out to all those people, especially the ones you know well enough where you can have that conversation. Say, I haven't talked to you for a couple of years, but man, I see your wings business. I have a friend who does wings and things. And your wings business is going great. Well, I'm now doing real estate. Maybe we could partner up on something. Try to make those business contacts with other people who are already out in the community too.
That too. And like,
Utilize your resources you already have.
then my biggest thing is finding, whenever I do help clients, like, it's, if they go to ask me, oh, do you have a plumber equipment or like an inspection?
Exactly.
It's me finding those three.
It is.
And, I might even find them from my contacts that I already have in my phone that I don't know if that's what my friend does. Or
Right.
That
Yep.
somebody does.
Yeah.
I think the good rule of having three
Mm-hmm.
best.
Yep. This is one of Kristen's favorite things. I remind everybody, you engage in every conversation spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in a relationship with me. The core focus of real estate is not the transaction, but it's the relationship and getting people through the process. So you have to be a good hand holder and a good listener. Not just
Yeah.
negotiation skills, but you can't negotiate well if you're not listening to the issues that you need to deal with. So there's it's a balance, and it can be challenging because you get in the heat of everything. You got to remember to slow down. Pay attention, figure out what the needs really are, try to keep people's emotions out of it. It gets challenging. But we did the role play. Okay. Okay, if anybody's not sure about things to say, they have some suggestions. You always urge them to consider an offer carefully and consider the value of meeting your moving goals. In the long run, meeting all your overall goals or selling your home is the more critical need, not just the price on the house. There's so many other aspects of the move, the offer, that need to be considered. Like Rucker said earlier, days on market can be critical to how a home's going to sell. If it sits there too long, then it can be a problem. Sometimes you're going to have to lower the price to entice people to come back and see it again.
Right.
Because they may have liked it at $450, but now that it's $425, they might really like it.
Right.
And they were kind of waiting to see what happened. So you're going to have those strategies with your sellers and talk to them about that. This is what we do if it goes quickly. This is a strategy if it sits on the market too long. This is a strategy if we find out there's something significantly wrong with the house. You have to have those conversations with them so you have a plan in place and they're not surprised and you're not surprised.
How soon, just like personalized, whenever you were starting out, were you mostly just like helping with buyers? And then once you have the buyers, after you grew that then you were able to find sellers? Or were you
It's more typical to have buyers first, just
That's
because you're
that's
out at open houses and
Exactly.
networking and parties, and it's easier to find people looking for a home that need help versus trying to sell a home.
and somebody being like, sell my house.
Yeah.
I feel like that's if someone's saying that looking for a home that's more common than someone saying that they're actually selling their house.
Yeah.
They haven't looked at
I've
it.
had more luck finding buyers through open houses and social media networking.
Yeah,
Most of my listings have come from either a referral or a personal friend,
gotcha.
just coincidentally. Listings are harder to go out and solicit. I mean, you have to literally go door knock on
Yeah.
people's homes and say you want to buy or sell your home. I mean, it's a lot harder to
And it's like.
find a listing.
So most people, I would imagine, if they're already looking to sell their house, they probably have an agent in mind or who they worked with previous. that
They
they're-
do, and that's,
And
yep.
it's that conversation of I don't want to take you from who you worked with previously, but I do want you to be my client. Right?
Well, I try, and you don't always win, but like my friend Jennifer called me a couple weeks ago and said, oh yeah, we're thinking about moving. It's like, well, I'd love to come talk to you guys about helping you sell your home.
Yeah,
Well, I think we're gonna still use Missy.
Yeah,
It's okay.
right.
And that's okay. But at least they're thinking about you.
Exactly.
You know, and they're now remembering that you're a real estate
It's
agent.
getting that verbiage.
And
out.
just getting yourself out there, getting exposed,
Yeah.
because people may not want to sell now, but if you have a conversation with them about needing to sell their home, they say, oh no, we're not going to be moving for a while.
Yeah.
Well, maybe next year when they realize they are going to move, because, you know, Bob got a new job, they're like, hey, let's call Ryan.
Yeah,
You know, especially if you keep in touch with them over this
Exactly.
past year, you're sending them little emails, you're sending them happy birthday
Your little
announcements,
monthly thing,
your little
like that.
monthly, you know, thinking of you today on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you're still exposing yourself to them, even if they're not an active client,
Yeah.
they can be a client in the future.
I want to get to where, like, when they think about real estate, they think about. Ryan.
Yes,
Like,
everybody is a potential future business
Yes.
transaction for you. I mean, think of it that way. Yep. This comes up a lot, buyers and sellers. They say, well, the neighbor's house sold for $450. And the neighbors had a new roof and they had redone the hardwood floors and the kitchen's only 10 years old.
Mhm.
Your house has its original roof and you still have the carpet. So I'm sorry, you know, it
Yeah.
doesn't compare apples to apples. So we're probably not gonna be able to list yours at 450. We might be closer to 420,
Mhm.
you know, if we kind of take into account how much it would cost to update these things. And those are hard conversations for sellers to hear, but you have to be the one to tell them. Or they're gonna have this expectation that they're getting 450 and there's no way they're getting
Do you
450.
have, like, whenever you have these conversations, is it, you have, you know, evidence or pictures?
Oh,
that you print
absolutely.
out
I
showing
take the
them?
picture of that really gorgeous home
Yeah,
that sold for
show
450 to them.
them.
I show them all the pictures from MLS. Then I take the picture of the house that sold for 390.
Yeah.
That looks like crap.
And then.
That was the worst one in the neighborhood that I could find. And then I say, and you're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking 420 might be a better price for you.
Visuals.
Then they can go, okay, I get it. That makes sense. Because you're not insulting their
Right,
home,
no.
because you got to find something that looks worse than their
You're
house.
comparing it.
You're
Yeah.
comparing them so they can kind of see why you think they're more in the middle.
I got it. Like,
Yeah, that's my
you know,
style.
And plus people don't mind looking at pictures and then.
Well, it also just helps them. I will send them all the comps. So these are the things that have sold in your house the last 6 months. You know,
Yeah.
there are 8 of them. I let them see every single home and the price range can be $100,000 difference.
Yeah.
But say that this is what our competition is. So where do you think your house falls in this scenario? Are you on this end or are you on that end?
Definitely.
Let them kind of get a sense of, oh, you're right. And my house doesn't have that.
Yeah, instead of.
Oh, yeah.
saying, I think you should list for this,
Mhm.
it's, what do you think?
Yeah,
And,
I let them look, and
let's-
sometimes I'll say, just, you know, look at these for a few days. I'll be back. We'll get some measurements next time I'm here so we can get ready to, you know, for the listing.
Yeah.
And give them time, work on that seller's disclosure while I'm gone. You know, you kind of give them some stuff to do.
In their home.
Give them their
Yeah.
homework so they can think about it when you go back 2 days later or whatever. Then you say, okay, what'd you think about all those homes?
Oh, yeah.
God, you're right, you know. You know, the Smiths down the street, they really did have a nice house. I can see why it sold for so much. Because they know these people. They live in the neighborhood.
Right, yeah.
You're like, well, yeah, and yeah, that, you know,
I should have got
you know, the old woman who'd lived there for 45 years, who never had a chance to fix things up, I can see why hers sold for so little. It just helps them make a connection to their neighborhood and their price point. You say, okay, well, where do you think, you know, I'm thinking we should be like maybe in this range. What do you think? Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And you know, that doesn't always work with them, but it's your best opportunity to get them on board with what the condition their home really is in.
Yeah,
Because they can compare it to the other conditions. And if theirs is an excellent condition like the neighbors, then we're listening for 450.
Mhm.
Because we know we can get 450 and maybe we'll get more because people like that neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you never know. It also helps if you know your neighborhoods. Like, you know, Knoll Hills is a very popular neighborhood in Overland Park.
That's it. No, this is-
And I've lived there for 30 years in this area, so I'm very familiar with this part of Johnson County, the Prairie Village, Overland Park area, not south.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Midtown, so I've got a lot of knowledge about those neighborhoods, so it helps. You know, when I sold a little house in Independence, I'd never been to that neighborhood in Independence my entire life.
Right, but do you pretend, like, do you act like you know? they live in-
I do.
I like it, it's good. Yeah.
You never lie to people, but they don't have to know every ounce of truth too.
Right.
I mean, I'm familiar with Independence. I've been over there, you know, dozens of times for court cases, but I've never been to the neighborhood.
Right.
You drive down 23rd Street to that car house and you go home. But you know, you do your research. I learned a lot about that little neighborhood in a week.
That-
So the MLS is full of knowledge, and so are the tax records and all those things. And there's a lot of history there that you can gain a lot of knowledge about a neighborhood without having been to it very
Gotcha.
much. Yeah. Okay, lead gen conversations. Well, we ran out of time as we always chat. But if you have if you need ideas about how to, start conversations with people, there's lots of suggestions, through our power tools. There's lots of videos on KW Connect. There's a whole section on educational videos about how to be a realtor and things to do. So there's a lot of resources too, if you want to pursue that. Most of the time, it's just calling and saying, hey, I've got some exciting news to tell you. I now have a real estate license. How's your world going?
Just having a conversation.
Just have a conversation. So I'd love to, keep in touch. I want you to have my business information. Can I send you my app or can I put you in my database so we can keep in touch? I don't find it's that hard to, especially as a brand new agent, to reconnect and let everybody know you now are licensed.
Right.
It's a great excuse to call everybody you know.
Mhm.
And then you do get all their updated information and vice versa. If they are a plumber or an electrician or, whatever, you might be able to have, you might need them in the future too. So it's like, I'd love all your updated, information.
Mhm.
'Cause I might want to be able to send my client to you in the future.
Right.
When I have my first client, if they have a plumbing problem, I'm gonna call you. People appreciate that. They like to feel wanted. Absolutely. And so it's nice to get those connections started right now, even if you don't have a client. That's the perfect stuff to be working on.
Yeah.
Building up your own vendor database. Who do you know? And be proud of yourself. Celebrate your successes. If you do get your 10 contacts in and you do make 10 conversations, you do write 10 notes, then, go celebrate. You worked hard that week.
It's wine.
Right, get some wine. Recognize that the little things matter. Everything you do that's related to real estate and getting your business up and running is important. So don't feel you're not doing the right thing. Here's what I was saying. Areas to go. Command is where all your database stuff lives and the smart plans are and designs for social media. All that stuff's here. Connect is KW's educational component.
Okay.
And it has a video for every possible scenario you can imagine. So you have this, when you're on command up here on the right, on the left, it says command right next to it. You can't really see it. It says connect. You click on the connect button and it takes you to the educational platform. And there's lots of resources there. There's live chat if you have a question about something. There's tons of videos about different scenarios. All the Ignite stuff is discussed on there, so you can go see other information about Ignite and its different classes. So there's just lots and lots of resources outside what we offer here in the office.
Gotcha.
So keep that in mind. Okay, next week, session 19, get to the close. So we're going to start discussing what happens after we've negotiated an offer and one gets accepted. Then what do? You got
Find out next week,
30 days of lots and lots of work.
right? Mostly on you and not on the clients themselves.
Yeah, the clients have to do a lot of stuff and you have to manage it all. This is where your your project manager skills come in handy. Or like if you're an ex-teacher, think of it as, now you're herding these 25 little kiddos where, it's the same concept. You're trying to get them to this end goal. And so you need to have a strategy and plan. And we have an entire document called Contract to Close and every single thing you need to do.
Checklist.
Exactly like a checklist, day to day, because there are timelines. Everything in the real estate world has a timeline. There's only 10 days for inspections, only 5 days for renegotiation. Appraisal only has a 5-day window. Lenders have to have things done in so many days. So you have to be mindful of all those timelines and those deadlines, because you miss a deadline, it can be a big problem. The contract says it has to be done by that time. So if it's not done, you violated the contract. So we have to be really mindful of those deadlines. And that's part of our training as we walk you through that as coaches.
Does it put like
Is that like with this opportunities and command?
That is an
That's all
opportunity in
done.
command,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
So so I know I was with Brett.
That's the last slide, Connor, Talon. Thank you for joining us today. Do you guys have anything you want to say, wrapping up? Any questions?
No, that's good. Thanks, Megan.
You're welcome. I hope I gave helpful information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Guys, have a great week and go do some real estate. Find a client.
I did go last night. I went the week before.
Because me just jumping into this now, like.
Last night was fun.
Yeah.
Sarah Foote came and she taught us. I'm older than you guys and I'm not, well, I'm being honest, I'm not comfortable doing videos and stuff, and I'm not very app savvy. I'm learning. She taught us how to make a video on TikTok. I'm
That's
like,
cool.
like that's gonna happen, but it was fun. She tried. It's like, okay, it's not that hard.
Okay.
It's very similar to putting a video on my phone and editing it. I mean,
Right.
I could kind of follow the concept.
And it's now me changing it to real estate instead of me, just showing me building Legos.